Hello family, welcome back to our channel. Imagine a commercial airliner carrying dozens of people that completely vanishes into thin air, leaving no trace behind. Then, nearly 4 decades later, that exact same plane drops out of the sky and lands perfectly on a modern runway. The legend begins on a clear morning in July 1955. Pan Am Flight 914 lifts off the tarmac in New York, charting a routine course south toward Miami. On board are over 50 passengers and crew members, expecting a standard domestic flight. But 1 hour and 45 minutes into the journey, the flight abruptly drops off the radar. The pilots send no distress signal. There are no emergency warnings. The aircraft simply ceases to exist on the air traffic control monitors. Coast Guard cutters and Navy vessels immediately sweep the waters off the coast of Florida. They spend days searching the Atlantic, but they find zero wreckage. Not a single seat cushion, metal fragment, or drop of fuel is recovered from the ocean. Authorities are forced to close the case, telling grieving families there are no survivors. For 37 years, Flight 914 was cataloged as a standard cold case. But in 1992, a landing in Caracas would force investigators to look back at the 1955 logs for a plane that was never supposed to return. Fast forward to September 1992. Inside the control tower at Simon Bolivar International Airport in Caracas, Venezuela, an air traffic controller notices a bizarre blip on his radar screens. It's an unregistered aircraft, entirely absent from any modern flight system logs. The tower hails the unknown aircraft. A confused pilot responds, identifying himself as the captain of Pan Am Flight 914. He formally requests permission to land in Miami, completely oblivious to the fact that he is currently 2,000 kilometers off his intended route and exactly 37 years in the future. The plane touches down on the Venezuelan runway. Ground crews stare in disbelief at a battered, propeller-driven relic from the mid-20th century. Its paint is chipped, the wings are visibly weathered, and the cockpit lacks every piece of modern navigation technology required to fly in 1992. And then the aircraft's cabin doors open. Passengers step out, wearing vintage dresses and fedoras, clutching old-fashioned suitcases. They carry handwritten paper tickets, without a single barcode. Most chillingly, despite missing since 1955, not a single passenger has aged a day. When ground authorities inform the captain that the year is 1992, panic sets in. The pilot quickly seals the cabin doors. Before firing up his engines, he accidentally throws a small pocket calendar onto the tarmac, dated 1955. The antique plane takes off, soaring back into the clouds, and vanishes forever. The evidence left behind leaves us with a massive question. Did a tear in the fabric of space-time actually swallow a commercial airliner? Or are we looking at one of the most perfectly executed illusions in modern history? The Caracas landing quickly leaks out of the airport. The tale dominates early internet message boards, floods conspiracy websites, and eventually becomes a massive recurring topic across YouTube mystery channels. As the story circulates, the public adds new layers. Forums claim there is classified ATC audio of the landing. Others insist the U.S. government intercepted the plane after it left Caracas, locking the unaging passengers inside a secret military base to study time dilation. But to verify these massive claims, we have to ignore the YouTube videos and dig straight into the actual aviation archives from the mid-20th century. When we check the primary documents, the entire timeline collapses. The first glaring problem comes directly from the airline. Pan American Airways maintained meticulous, highly regulated flight logs. They have absolute zero record of a Flight 914 ever existing. No plane with that designation took off from New York in July 1955, and none went missing. We can go further by checking the press. If a massive commercial airliner packed with 50 Americans vanished off the Florida coast, it would dominate the headlines. Yet a search of every major global newspaper published in July 1955 yields zero mention of a missing flight or a massive naval search. The timeline falls apart because the inciting incident, the tragic disappearance of a passenger plane, never actually happened in the first place. Since the flight never left the ground in 1955, the story requires a different point of origin. Its actual birthplace sits at an American grocery store newsstand in the early 1990s. The true author of the Pan Am mystery is the Weekly World News. This was a notorious American supermarket tabloid that entirely fabricated its stories for comedic value, running headlines about half-bat humans and alien encounters. In fact, the publication found the Pan Am story so profitable that they republished the exact same article multiple times throughout the 1990s. To keep it fresh, the editors sloppily used completely different stock photos to represent the time-traveling passengers in each new edition. They also invented the star witness. The heroic air traffic controller who allegedly spoke to the pilot, Juan de la Corte, does not exist in any Venezuelan employment record. The writers simply made up a name to give the story a shred of human authority. The mystery of Flight 914 contains no classified government operations and no anomalies in physics. It is purely a cheap piece of creative writing, engineered to sell a few extra papers at the checkout line. The reason a grocery store gag survived into the 21st century comes down to a process called context stripping. When a physical tabloid article is typed up and pasted onto an early internet forum, it loses the surrounding pages of alien jokes. The text is stripped of its satirical context, allowing digital readers to interpret the words as serious historical record. But the myth also thrives because our minds want it to be real. We are psychologically drawn to the romance of the Bermuda Triangle and the sci-fi thrill of time travel. The story perfectly exploits our desire for a world that still holds deep, impossible secrets. The definitive verdict on Pan Am 914 is that the entire event is a sueño yite jute, a meticulously planned lie. There were no vintage planes touching down in modern Caracas, no handwritten tickets, and no passengers frozen in time. The story of Flight 914 has become a case study in media literacy, illustrating how easily a fictional tabloid piece can be stripped of its humor and accepted as historical fact by a global audience. Thank you for watching this presentation. If you like this, hit the like button.